A very good evening to you, wherever you are watching, listening from. This is the Black Hot Fire News Update, where we look at everything that has been happening throughout Africa today and this week. We start with Kenya, where US President Joe Biden is set to host Kenyan President William Ruto for a state visit in May. President William Ruto and First Lady Rachel Ruto are set to travel to the United States later this year for a state visit hosted by the country's head of state, Joe Biden, and his spouse, Jill Biden. The May 23rd visit, according to State House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, will mark the 60th anniversary of the US-Kenya diplomatic relations. Hence, will celebrate a partnership that is delivering for the people of the United States and Kenya. That is according to White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. On a post in the White House website, Mrs. Jean said strengthen the shared commitment between the two countries to advance peace and security. So that is the President of Kenya, William Ruto, will be visiting the White House on May 23rd, according to the White House Secretary, Miss Jean. And moving on to other news from Kenya still, the government has admitted that it used funds meant for counties to pay the Eurobond. President William Ruto on Thursday owned up to starving the much-needed funds to the counties. The president blamed the delay in disbursement of funds to the devolved units on Eurobond debt payment pressure and the allocation of more resources to the Ministry of Education and junior secondary schools. Ruto was speaking as he was launching projects in Murang'a and Nyeri counties on the second day of his Mount Kenya tour.
The second day of President William Ruto's ascent to the mountain saw him launch projects in Murang'a and Nyeri counties. Well, here the president admitted that there has been delays in the disbursement of funds to the county governments, saying it was occasioned by the need to pay debts.
Ndio tunafanya hapa Murang'a. Tunategemea pesa zako zinatoka Nairobi. Na kwa miezi mbili hazijaingia. So unajua last week nilikuwa nalipa ile deni kubwa waliwaliwa na watu wanne. Sasa nimelipa hiyo last week, si namna hiyo. Na nilikwambia kwanza nilipe watoto waende shule alafu nikupange.
The president adding that the devolved units of governments have also suffered due to the administration's prioritization of funding to the education sector.
Kidogo wananiambia pesa yao ya kaunti imechelewa. Lakini nimewaambia wacha nicheleweshe yenu kidogo. Kwanza nihakikisha watoto wote wa Kenya wako shuleni. Hii Januari nimeweka bilioni 61 katika masomo ya watoto. Wale wa primary tumepatiana capitation. Wale wa JSS tumepatiana capitation. Secondary hivyo. TVET namna hiyo. University namna hiyo.
The president pledged to release the funds in a week's time. The president also made a case for his pet project, the affordable housing, saying it was one of his four-pronged approach to reducing unemployment in the country.
Mimi nataka niwaeleze wabunge, you have the choice to make. Because this is not about parties. This is not about this side versus the other side. This is not about those who have versus those who don't. This is about the employment, the job opportunities for millions of young people in Kenya.
And to the region, the president made promises that all projects initiated by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta would be completed. His deputy Rigathi Gachagua on his part pointed at the strengthening of the shilling as an indicator of good things to come.
Hii dola muuze leo na kesho na kesho. Msipouza mtaenda hasara kubwa. Hii dola mimi naona rais amepanga itafika 100. Kwa hivyo tunaambia Wakenya wale wako na dollars. Jana wamejaa kwa benki, leo asubuhi wako huko. Wale ambao wamebakisha dollars, mkimbie haraka msiende hasara. Barabara zote za Mau ambazo zilikuwa zimekwama kwa sababu ya kukosekana kwa pesa. Nimeshapanga ile kisirani kubwa tulikuwa naye ni ile madeni makubwa watu wa BBI na rege walituwekea.
The president's message to Central Kenya is that of
A little translation on what the president was talking about there. He was talking about the fact that he's saying that he used money that were meant to be sent to county governments to pay the Eurobond, and that is why county governments are yet to receive any funding. That is because all the money that was to be sent to the counties was used to pay the Eurobond. The Eurobond was about 3 billion Kenya shillings and it was settled. The deputy president also spoke in Swahili and he was talking about how the Kenya shilling has gained value has gained against the US dollar, and he was telling the Kenyans who still have US dollars in their homes to take them to the banks or they are going to lose money, because he says the shilling is going to stabilize and become more powerful in the next few days. So he's basically warning the people, telling them to take the US dollars to the bank and exchange it because it is going to lose value in the next few days. Moving on to another sad update from Kenya still. Two more people have died after consuming illicit alcohol in Kirinyaga. Two more people lost their lives on Thursday after consuming suspected illicit alcohol at Kandogo village in Kirinyaga, a town that has recently become a focal point of illicit alcohol-related fatalities in the region. Report says that one of the deceased persons, a middle-aged man, passed away on the way to Sagana Kagio Highway while being ferried to Kerogoya Hospital by police after consuming the counterfeit alcohol. He had reportedly complained of severe stomach pains prior to his demise. The second victim, 52-year-old John Gatimu, died at Kerogoya Hospital while receiving medical attention after consuming the toxic drinks that he allegedly sourced from a local brewery. Subsequently, angry Kandogo residents attempted to raise down some of the bars at a trading center but were dispersed by police. The development comes 10 days after 17 people lost their lives to illicit brews within the same Kirinyaga town. Subsequent reports later revealed that the liquor was police exhibit that had been stored at a police station. A police officer who declined to be named while talking to journalists said that the killer brew had been stored at the station before 4 rogue police officers sold it to locals. So basically, people died out of liquor that was in police custody. So some police officers sold the liquor to a local bar and the bar sold the liquor to people, and now 17 people died out of that. The OCS, that is the commanding officer of Kiamashiri police station, which is the police station in question, was among the officers who were arrested and arraigned to court. So 17 people died because they consumed illegal alcohol that was in police custody, or that was supposed to be in police custody to be used as evidence.
Three more people have died from the consumption of illicit alcohol in Kangia, Kirinyaga County. The death toll has now risen to 13, with bereaved families now saying the deaths could have been avoided had action been taken after previous similar incidents. Brenda Wanga has more.
Kangai Center in my constituency, life goes on as usual. Deeper in the village, a somber cloud hangs over several homes. Family members lost in reflections and memories of their kin, now deceased. Agnes Wanjiku was until Wednesday a happily married woman. Illicit alcohol sold at a bar in the village has turned her into a sad and hurt widow.
Amekuwa na mchungu mwingi sana, na mimi sina mambo mengine kwa sababu mzee wangu ameenda kasi kugonjeka ni pombe tu.
A 53-year-old husband is one of the people who have since died from partaking of the alcohol on Monday. She says her husband's condition quickly deteriorated the night after drinking the brew.
Akaniambia mimi hata nguo sioni, nikaenda kwa nyumba nikamtolea nguo akafaa. Mbonda ikakuja tukaingia tukaenda. Tukifika Kiru anatoa anaanza kutoa kulia. Tukaenda.
The pair had frequented the local bar as usual. This time, however, would be their very last.
Hakuwa uhai. Naye anti alipelekwa hospitali hiyo siku. Alipelekwa hospitali, alienda akatimbiwa. Halafu siku hiyo hakufaulu.
The majority of the dead are from this village and were customers of the now destroyed bar and restaurant, where aside from the usual alcoholic drinks, They partook of a special drink.
Vile mimi nasikia wakiita wanaita Wanjokoya.
Watu wanaipenda njuu sasa. Maisha iko njuu. Sasa pesa kenye hiyo pombe inatoka ni pesa nduni sana, ni 50, na ukitumia vikombe mbili utumie 100, ni kama mtu ametumia 500. Umeona sasa, wanaona hiyo ni rahisi, ndio wanapotelea kwa hiyo pombe.
Residents of this village tell us that killer brew was manufactured right here at the California club, where revelers short on money but with a thirst to quench came for the potent brew. Residents blame the police and the local administration for repeatedly looking the other way as the illicit alcohol made and sold here took lives. They claim those mass deaths are the first ones to occur due to the bar owners' activities. As they prepare to bury their dead, they're crying for justice.
Janzia leo iko na miaka kadhaa. Hawa watu umesikia wamekufa, sio wa kwanza. Watu wamekuwa wanakufa, wakizaa kufa wanapelekwa kwa mtu. Kuna mto kumba iko hapo inaitwa Kanaro. Kila wakati ukisikia kuna watu wanatolewa Kanaro, sio wengine, wanatokana na hiyo pombe.
We have arrested California severally. Since I came here, I know we have prosecuted or taken to court more than almost 10 cases or around there. And most of the cases we have not been successful, especially the case on ethanol, which we confiscated in his homestead. And we were told to produce the apparatus.
Brenda Wangas.
So that is basically how 17 people died for consuming illicit alcohol that they consumed because it was cheap. They allegedly consume it because it is cheap, and it is about 50 shillings. 50 shillings is about not even $1. And the alcohol was in police custody before it was sold to the people who died. And the lady who was crying and speaking in Swahili is a widow. Her husband died from the illicit alcohol. 17 people died and 3 more died today. So that's the total number of people who died out of the illicit alcohol. Let us now head to lighter news, where the Kenyan shilling has posted its strongest single day gain in 12 years. The Kenyan shilling posted its strongest intraday gain against the US dollar in the last 12 years on Wednesday, ripping from a tide of investor confidence after the government received significant inflows to pay off the 2 billion euro bond. The dramatic gain on Wednesday lifted a local unit to its strongest level since November last year. So basically, this means that the shilling has now appreciated for 11 straight days to trade below shillings 153 at some commercial banks. For instance, Equity Bank quoted the dollar on Wednesday at 153 shillings, while KCB had a quote of 157. The highest among the 8 banks tracked by the highest among the 8 banks was KCB, that was Equity Bank, that was exchanging at 153 bob. On Tuesday, the CBK, that is the Central Bank of Kenya, had quoted the local unit at 156 shillings against the dollar. The record appreciation of the shilling is set to lower import cost in local currency terms, as importers are required to part with less for the same volume of goods oriented. So the Kenya shilling right now is trading at 151 shillings. That is in comparison to 163 a few days ago. So the Kenya shillings has appreciated in value for 11 straight days. So financial experts are saying that this is a result of Kenya paying out its Eurobond, and now that boosts investor confidence. But we are yet to know why the Kenya shilling has appreciated like that against the US dollar, because it was at 163 a few days ago, but now for 11 straight days it has been appreciating, and it is trading at 151 shillings right now. And this in comparison to other currencies in East Africa. Other currencies in East Africa have not been appreciating. The Kenya shillings is the only one that has been doing so well in comparison to the US dollar. Some argue that this means the economy is going to stabilize. Some argue that this is a false signal. Some argue that it is because China is on a holiday and now they are not working, and thus the reason for the surplus of dollars. Some argue that it is because Ruto borrowed a lot of money and now there is surplus of the US dollar in our economy. But the fact is the Kenyan shilling has appreciated and is doing well against the US dollar as compared to how it was doing a few days ago.
You may be looking at a drop in the cost of, which ideally would lead to 12 years today, greenback, to yesterday's average of 150 in the build. You may be looking at a drop in the cost of some goods and services if the shilling continues its gain against the US dollar. Why? Well, because a stronger shilling means lower cost of imported goods, which ideally would lead to these being cheaper for consumers. This follows the shilling posting its strongest gain in the course of a trading day against the US dollar in 12 years today, as it aggressively turned tables against the greenback. Some commercial banks sold the shilling for as low as 139 shillings to the US dollar this morning, compared to yesterday's average of 153 shillings and 75 cents, reflecting the volatility that crept into the market as a result of having many sellers and few buyers of the dollar. So what exactly is behind this volatility? NTV's Brian George Otia explains.
Combination of Central Bank of Kenya CBK intervention, influenced by foreign buyers of the infrastructure bond, and rising investor confidence has served to generate a sharp reversal of the shilling's depreciation in the recent days, a rare event that has been helped along by holders of US dollars dumping their stash in panic trades. Dollar inflows were also boosted by foreign portfolio investors who were participating in the February infrastructure bond, whose auction closed on Wednesday, raising 240.96 billion shillings against a target of 70 billion shillings. Local market signals around the country's successful raise of $1.5 billion in the fifth Eurobond, which translates to about 230 billion shillings, have also boosted the shilling, mainly because of the reassurance that the Treasury will not dip into CBK's forex reserves to raise funds to retire the $2 billion 2014 Eurobond that matures in June. Before the government announced its new bond sale, whose proceeds are being used to buy back or retire a portion of the 2014 bond, there was uncertainty about its ability to repay the maturing paper. Hence, the Eurobond removed a major stumbling block for the shilling and forced a rethink by dollar holders who were hedging on difficulties in repaying the bond. Importers are set to benefit from lower cost of goods shipped in from abroad, potentially giving the final consumer a reprieve from the high imported inflation on basic goods. For exporters, however, the stronger shilling results in lower earnings from overseas sales, potentially widening the country's trade deficit if imports go up at the same time on account of becoming more affordable due to the exchange rate gain. Brian George, OTN.
So it is still unclear as why the Kenya shilling has appreciated in the level that it has. Yesterday it appreciated, it got its highest single day gain in 12 years. At one point it was trading at 139 Kenya shillings. That is its highest single day gain in 12 years. It is yet unclear. As I said, some financial experts are arguing that it is because the government cleared the Eurobond. That was 2 billion US dollars worth of the Eurobond debt, and now there is investor confidence. Some are arguing that it is a false signal by the government because it wants people to release the dollars that they have, and that is why we saw the deputy president telling Kenyans to release, if they have dollars, to release them, or else they are going to lose a lot of money. So basically it's yet unclear, but one thing is clear, that the Kenya shilling is on an upward spiral as of now, gaining and gaining every day against the dollar. So we are yet to see. We are going to look at how it will perform in the next few days, and we are going to report on whether the Kenya shilling is going to get stronger or it is going to get weaker. But the shilling gaining against the dollar is beneficial to the country because it is going to reduce the cost of living, which is unbearably high right now. So whatever the reason that has caused the Kenya shilling to gain against the dollar, we don't know the reason yet, but one thing is clear, it is going to make the cost of living a bit easier because Kenya is a country that depends on imports, and most of the imports that Kenya does rely on the US dollar. And a big shout out to Jiba Jaba, who's with me, and he's telling me cops are the biggest gang in the USA. That is in reference to the cops from Kenya who sold illicit brew to people, and now 17 people died. Good day to you, Jiba Jaba. It's night here in Kenya. So moving on, let us now look at the rest of Africa, enough with Kenya. And we start with the Sahel Alliance. So the Sahel Alliance is composed of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And today it has confirmed its withdrawal from ECOWAS. The Defense and Foreign Affairs Minister from Mali and Niger arrived in Burkina Faso's capital on Thursday for a meeting between the three countries. It comes just weeks after their withdrawal from the regional bloc ECOWAS. The three members of the Alliance of the Sahel states are now The three members of the Alliance of the Sahel States are now laying the steps to create a tri-state confederation. Spokesman for the alliance, Abdoulaye Maiga, said the three members had confirmed their joint commitment to withdraw from ECOWAS without delay and continue cooperating under the alliance, which was formed last September. Maiga also said that the ministers were meeting to prepare for the creation of the proposed confederation. He emphasized that they were in Ogadogadu as part of the preparations for the summit of heads of state in the Sahel Alliance, which is due to take place soon. The minister also confirmed their joint commitment to withdraw from ECOWAS without delay and continue cooperation under the alliance formed last September. The decision at the end of January to leave the body was a heavy blow to the Western African bloc. The three states said that they were exiting with immediate effect. They argued that they were exiting the bloc due to illegitimate, inhuman, and irresponsible sanctions imposed on them by ECOWAS. The bloc had imposed sanctions on the Sahelian countries following coups that happened there. So basically, the three countries have formed a bloc. It is being called the Sahelian Alliance, and now they have left ECOWAS, and they will be forming a new bloc soon, and that is why today they confirmed that. That is why they confirmed today that they are leaving ECOWAS for good, and they are creating their own bloc, a tri-state bloc, a bloc of three countries in West Africa, that is. Let us now head to Tunisia, where we have sad news from Tunisia. Tunisia reports migrant deaths from a shipwreck near Libyan water. Tunisia's Coast Guard retrieved the bodies of 9 people who died after their boats sank on Thursday, marking the latest disaster from migrants trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. The Coast Guard also retrieved 45 people from the boat after it started to fill with water 4 miles off the coast of Zazis, a common departure point near Tunisia's border with Libya. Coast Guard spokesman Jabali said the boat, which was carrying non-Tunisian passengers, likely embarked from Libya and that survivors were transported to a local hospital in Tunisia. Several weeks earlier, a large boat with an estimated 54 Tunisians likely attempting to migrate to Europe went missing at sea, sparking protests from relatives from the city of El Hancha. The relatives have demanded information and a government response to the growing number of Tunisian youth who go missing attempting to cross the Mediterranean. Migrants' rights groups such as the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights have criticized the government and say that they have not done enough to save the lives of those at sea. That is, a greater number of migrants entered Europe from Tunisia than Libya, Morocco, or Turkey in 2021. That is, most of the migrants entering Europe are from Tunisia. And that is why so many of them have been dying each and every year on the sea as they try to cross into Europe. Using compiled data from Europe, Tunisia and UN agencies says more than 80,000 migrants had been intercepted at sea in 2023, a figure more than twice as large as the year prior. That includes the growing number of both Tunisians and sub-Saharan Africans, including from Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Sudan. So a lot of Africans are dying trying to cross the sea to Europe, and most of them are from Sudan, from Guinea, from Cote d'Ivoire, from Sudan, and from Tunisia. And those are among those who died on a boat that capsized yesterday. Moving on to yet another sad update from Africa, let us now head to DRC Congo, where rebels attacked a gold mine in eastern Congo, killing at least 12 people. At least a dozen people have been killed and 16 others kidnapped by rebels at a mining site in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Rebels from the Codeco armed group attacked a gold mine on Wednesday near the Duju district of Ituri province. Violence has intensified in eastern DRC lately, where conflicts have erupted for decades. More than 120 armed groups clash in the region, most over land and control of mines containing valuable minerals, while some groups try to protect their communities. Codeco is an informal Codeco is one of the groups that have emerged in Congo, and it is an informal association of militia groups drawn primarily from the Lendu ethnic farming community. Since 2017, Codeco has been fighting with Zaire, a separatist group drawn mainly from the Hema ethnic herding community. Codeco attacks killed nearly 1,800 people and injured more than 500 in the 4 years to 2022. Codeco is known for targeting areas rich in gold and minerals. In September, its fighters attacked a village in Ituri province, killing 14 people. Congo has some of the world's largest deposits of rare earth minerals such as cobalt, copper, and many other minerals which are in high demand for the manufacture of electric vehicles, wind turbines, and solar panels. On Thursday, military commander Yves Kajena said he was disappointed by the attack, especially since Codeco signed a peace treaty with other militias at the end of January. He pleaded with them to stop fighting and free the hostages. The commander Kajena said that the army was taking steps to end the violence. So that is what has been happening in DRC Congo. Another sad update with DRC Congo, a country rich in minerals, but that is always at war. So they fight amongst themselves. Some other people mine the minerals that are there. So there are about 120 armed groups in Congo right now. And one of them is the Codeco, which killed people yesterday and has killed more than 1,800 people. The wars are always due to control of mines that never help them. You know, they fight because of mines, and once they get the mines never really help them because they mine and give it to somebody else. So you can tell the wars are orchestrated. But anyways, let us not talk about Congo today because I've been talking about Congo for the whole week, and there isn't a day this week that I have not reported deaths from Congo. The other day, it was a bombing that happened in a refugee camp in northern Congo. Today, it is another attack. So the attacks are every day in Congo, and they're going to continue happening like this because, as you know, Congo is very rich and it is being targeted for that. Let us now head to Somalia, where the United States has said that it is going to build 5 new military bases for the Somali army. The US will build up to 5 military bases for the Somali army in a project that seeks to bolster the Somalian National Army's capability amidst ongoing threats from the extremist group that is the Al-Shabaab. Somalia's defense minister and the US minister signed a memorandum of understanding on Thursday in Mogadishu, the Somali capital. The agreement comes at a time when the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia, known as the ATMIS, is scaling back its presence in Somalia. The new bases will be associated with the Somali military Danab Brigade, established in 2017, following an agreement between the US and Somalia to recruit, train, equip, and mentor 3,000 men and women from across Somalia to build a strong army that will help fight the Al-Shabaab. The UN Secretary Council has authorized the reduction of the peacekeeping force in Somalia, and the Somali government says it is achieving progress in improving security. However, Al-Shabaab continues to carry out unique attacks across Somalia, including in public places. The group's latest attack was inside a military base in Mogadishu, which I reported on Tuesday, where it killed four UAE troops and a Bahraini military officer. So the United States is going to build 5 new military bases there to help and fight the Al-Shabaab, allegedly. Anyway, let us move away from Somalia and head back again to DRC, where after I reported on Wednesday that South Africa was sending 2,900 soldiers to DRC to help in a peacekeeping mission. So this is an update of the 2,900 officers, military officers who were sent to DRC. So 2 South African soldiers were killed by an explosion in eastern Congo amidst unrest. 2 South African soldiers were killed and 3 injured when a mortar landed in their base in eastern Congo and exploded. The South African National Defence Force, which oversees all the country's armed forces, said it believed the mortar explosion on Wednesday was a result of indirect fire, and an investigation was underway to determine who was responsible. South Africa has sent 2,900 soldiers to Congo as part of the South African Development Community's mission to fight against armed rebel groups in the east. South Africa announced this week that it would be sending a new contingent of soldiers to eastern Congo. It wasn't immediately clear if those killed and injured were part of that new deployment. The base that was hit was in the North Kivu province. South African was in the North Kivu province of Congo. South African National Defence Force spokesperson Sifiwe Dlamini said the injured were taken to a hospital in the city of Goma. Violence in the conflict-hit region has increased in recent weeks, with many blaming attacks on the M23 rebel group that has been fighting Congolese soldiers in the region for years. The Congo government continues to say that the M23 is receiving military support from the neighboring Rwanda, something that Rwanda denies. But M23 has indicated in recent statement that it is in the midst of a new advance in eastern Congo. So M23 has made it clear that it is there to take over Congo. And Congo continues to say that M23 is financed by Rwanda, something that Rwanda continues to deny. More than 1 million people have been displaced by the conflict since November, and that adds to the 6.9 million people who had already fled their homes in one of the world's biggest humanitarian crises that nobody is talking about, by the way. On Thursday, the Norwegian Refugee Council said the recent advance of the armed groups toward the key town of Sake near Goma poses an imminent threat to the entire aid system in eastern Congo. That is what has been happening in Congo. I've had 3 updates on Congo on this single news bulletin, and all of them have been about who was killed and who was killed where. So that is what has been happening in Congo. A crisis is happening there that nobody is talking about. Not the West, not the medias, not even African countries themselves are talking about the crisis that is going on in Congo. Anyway, let us head to Senegal now, where a delay of the presidential election, initially Senegalese President Macky Sall had postponed the February 25th election to December. So today, the Constitutional Court of Senegal ruled that the postponement of the presidential election was unconstitutional. So Senegal's top election authority on Thursday voided the government's postponement of a presidential election scheduled for February 25th and ruling that the moves were unconstitutional. Senegal's Constitutional Council cancelled the decree signed by President Macky Sall that postponed the election according to a judgment approved by 7 members of the body, a copy which I was able to see. According to the judgment, the National Assembly's decision on February 5th to reschedule the vote for December 15 was contrary to the Constitution. President Macky Sall did not immediately make any public comment in reaction to the ruling as of the time of this bulletin. In an interview late last week, however, he had declined to speak on whether he would accept the court's decision if it rejected the delay, saying instead that I will be able to say what I will do when the judgment is made. The Senegalese leader had postponed the election hours before campaigns were to start, citing a dispute between the judiciary and the legislature over the final list of candidates as well as the reported dual nationality of some of the candidates. The postponement was rejected by opposition leader, which led to a protest that about 6 people have been killed in the protests that resulted from Macky Sall postponing the election. This year's election, unlike previous years, has been dodged by controversies from deadly protests that resulted from Sall announcing that he did not seek a 3rd term, to the disqualification of 2 opposition leaders. And it was yesterday that Bola Tinubu, who is the chairman of ECOWAS, said that he will speak to Macky Sall and find a solution for Senegal. Anyway, that is what has been happening in Senegal a few days after the government shut down internet access in Senegal. So I'm sure nobody is watching me from Senegal because they do not have internet access. And let us finish the news bulletin with Ethiopia, where Ethiopia has rejected allegations that its forces massacred civilians. So I reported on Wednesday that Ethiopian forces allegedly massacred 45 civilians because they were supporting rebel groups that were enemies to the government. So Ethiopia's government on Thursday dismissed allegations that its soldiers massacred 45 civilians last month in the country's area of Amhara. A rebellion broke out in Amhara, Ethiopia's second biggest province, last year when the government moved to dissolve the regional forces and absorb them into the federal army was rejected. Later, rebels captured several towns across the region before retreating to the countryside. So today, the government of Ethiopia, through its government spokesperson, Legesse Tulu, told the local language service, the local broadcaster, that it had nothing to do with the death of the civilians, and the army and the military did not target any civilian. He said that in case any killings were made, that the defense forces had acted in self-defense when they were fired upon by armed elements. So he said if anybody was killed, it was because they were armed and they fired first. Authorities have cut the internet in Amhara, and in some locations there is no phone service, making it difficult to verify whatever is being said. So in Senegal, they cut the internet, but in Ethiopia, they have cut everything from the internet to even phone calls. You cannot even make a phone call in Ethiopia right now. So it is 40 minutes past 7 East African time. That is all that has been happening in Africa. Most of them sad updates, deaths from Senegal to DRC to Ethiopia. But that is what has been happening in Africa today. And a big shout out to Jiba Jaba, Jerry, Katie, and of course everyone else who was with me during this news update, and to anybody who will watch this news update later on. So I'll see you on Monday on another news bulletin, but I'll be here tomorrow on the Diary of a Young Black King from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. That is all we had today. You are now up to date on what has been happening in Africa. It's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.